Hello everyone, I'm just stopping by to let you all know that we have a brand new channel launched called What Culture Horror, which is the home of all things freaky, like lists, news, podcasts, all with a lovely horror tinge to them. It is pretty great, it's very spooky, so I'm, not doing some big it up or anything, but you should definitely check it out. It is pretty dang good. I'm gonna head back there right now. Hope you enjoy your list, hope you enjoy your video, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.
1996 was a badass year for professional wrestling. Not only did Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall rewrite the rulebook over in WCW, but waiting in the wings over in the World Wrestling Federation were The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh, how we weren't prepared for what was on the cards. And sure, it would take Vince McMahon a year or so before he got his side of things rolling, but there was so much going on, you'd be forgiven for remembering what was happening below the radar, or which familiar names were actually employed at this time. And I'm not talking about the likes of Ahmed Johnson, although there's always a story there, but let me take you on a little journey. I'm Simon from What Culture. Hit that subscribe button. This is 10 wrestlers you didn't realize wrestles for WWE in 1996. Number 10, DLo Brown. One of the most underrated wrestlers of the entire Attitude Era, DLo Brown was not only great in the Nation of Domination, but also had a really entertaining run as the European champion. He treated that belt like it was his child, and I still like the chest protector, even though nowadays everybody says it was crap. While he didn't make his official debut until 1997, when he did indeed wiggle his head onto Monday Night Raw in April, Brown was used before this, but no one ever talks about it. For years he had been used as a jobber or enhancement talent, often losing to the likes of Earthquake, Henry Godwinn, and whoever else needed the rub. DLo was a regular in Heartland City Wrestling at the time, which served as a good way into WWE, and he even lost to the Bonnie Donners on a 1996 episode of Superstars. If you want to know who he tagged with that day, it was a man called Major Yates. Unless you are Major Yates, I don't think you know who that is. Number 9, Tekno Team 2000. During a time where for some reason whacking 2000 on the end of your name made you cool, I think, Tekno Team 2000 made their debut for WWE in the summer of 1995. And yes, to tie into their name, they were all futuristic and shiny. Troy and Travis were meant to be from the future, kind of, maybe, and because of that, unlike their slow plodding opponents, they were super fast and athletic. That last bit's not true, it's what it should have been, but no, this was a Vince McMahon creation that lasted for 3 TV matches before vanishing into the dust. Until 1996 rolled around. Making a very brief return, they were given chances against the Smoking Guns, the Godwinns and the Bonnie Donners, and they lost every time. I'll be amazed if anyone still talks about these guys, they were used so infrequently, but yes, they did at least once share a locker room with The Undertaker. Wrestling is so weird. Number 8, Chris Harris, or Brandon Walker if you'd prefer. These days, the former 7 times NWA Tag Champ is more of an internet meme given what happened. There was some serious excitement when Chris Harris was signed by WWE in 2008. He had been great in TNA, which is why he got a deal. All this went to hell in a handbasket when he was given the gimmick of Brandon Walker. Let's just say it didn't work out at all. He only had 2 matches in ECW that year, and it was eerily similar to what happened 12 years prior. Because yes, Harris was in a Vince McMahon ring, and he got pummeled by Farouk and Bradshaw, although in separate bouts. A bit of foreshadowing there. Chris wasn't earmarked as a star, so he left to see what he could do in WCW in 2000. As we know, that's just bad timing. World Championship Wrestling was about to die. On top of that, what he did get there wasn't great. He lost on shows like WCW Saturday Night and Worldwide to the likes of Shawn Stasiak and Buzzkill. No wonder he was so pleased to actually being given a shot in TNA, and then look what happened. Number 7, Tajiri. Many years before he became a cult hero on WWE TV, Tajiri was on Raw in 1996. It's a recurring theme too, because what was his job? To be squashed by the Godwinns. Those guys. Teaming up with partner Tim Patterson, this was also filled with nonsense, as manager Hillbilly Jim chased Sonny around with a dog called Old Blue. It kind of sums up WWF in the mid-90s. It was Patterson who got roughed up in this the most though, with Tajiri managing to stay out of the way and even busting out a moonsault, and he's got to be pleased about that. You want to know why? Because old Timmy Boy was hit with the slop drop, a real move, before Henry Godwinn made a noise like a pig. I think because he was a farmer. Back home in Japan, Tajiri was a BJW regular and even popped up in New Japan here and there. He was even in the Best of the Super Juniors 4 tournament and got some wins. WWE clearly didn't see him in the right light until years later. Number 6, Scott Damour. Scott Damour is under the radar, one of the most influential men in pro wrestling. Not only does he now have a role as co-executive vice president of Impact, which has helped the promotion no end, but he also trained Gail Kim, Alex Shelley, Eric Rung, Bobby Roode, Rhino, and more. We all owe him a thank you. Before that, he was of course a wrestler first, and his best gimmick bar none was as a wrestling golfer whose name was Chip Birdie. That is absolutely amazing. It's like when you can't be bothered to think of a better pun. Through all this, he did a couple of TV losses for WWE in 1996, coming up short against Duke the Dumpster Droese and Bradshaw. The same year, he was also featured on WCW, where he challenged Johnny B. Bad for the TV Championship. Obviously didn't win that, and it was his post-in career where he truly shone. But all of this is real, so we had to talk about it. Number 5, Jim Neidhart. Jim the Anvil Neidhart had a long career in WWE. He won tag gold alongside Bret Hart in the Hart Foundation, and given that they are considered one of the best tag teams ever, he left his mark. He was also quite the character, stroking his beard like he thought it was gonna fall off. In the mid-90s though, Hart and Jim's careers were going in very different directions. The Hitman was considered a future top guy, but no one really knew what to do with the Anvil. It didn't help he was having personal issues with substance abuse, and that he got fired in 1992. He did return 4 years later, but you will not find his name on any WWE card in that period. Why? Because he wasn't Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Instead, Vince McMahon reimagined him as Who, a masked heel that existed just so announcers could make terrible jokes. Who is this? And so on. It sucked. It genuinely is one of the worst gimmicks ever, and it was also obvious who was under the hood. I mean, who else looks like Jim Neidhart? Not exactly a slight man. Number 4, Joey Abs. Also known as the worker in the Mean Street Posse because he was the only one with any wrestling experience, Joey Abs was actually part of the fabled Omega organization that starred the Hardy Boys. He wasn't mucking around here, and his name was Joey Abs. Come on! Much like Matt and Jeff, he found his way onto WWE TV as a jobber in 1996, where he performed under his real name, Jason Arndt. Mark Merrow, the British Bulldog, Farouk again, and Steve Austin all got wins over him, and if you want some true trivia, he was also the first guy to take a stunner on WWE TV. That's cool! Even better, Jason got a win over Austin later that year when he formed a partnership with Eddie Jackie and beat him in a 2-on-1 match. Now, even then, it wasn't exactly clean as the Bulldog interfered, but still, does Joey Abs have a visual pinfall over the Rattlesnake and one of the most influential people in wrestling history? You bet your ass. Number 3, Scotty Hotty. One of those names you're only going to get on wrestling or potentially in a kid's cartoon show. Before he found fame as a hip-hop fan that did the worm, Scotty Hotty was a jobber to the stars. He was great in the ring and not massive, which worked perfectly for this kind of thing. I suppose doing all of this led to him getting a full-time gig in 1997. Prior to this though, he was Scott Taylor and had 3 TV matches the year previous. It's a who's who of who did beat him too, as Mankind, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and one Leif Cassidy, aka Al Snow, all punched his lights out. Amazingly, 4 years later, Scotty actually got revenge against Al too, when he teamed with Grandmaster Thekne to beat him and Steve Blackman. Sure, at the time they were head shees, but a win is a win, don't overthink it. Number 2, Edge. Okay, he wasn't called Edge, he was actually called Sexton Hardcastle, but it was still Edge. Just had a silly name. Young as a pup in 1996, Adam Copeland was a long-haired newbie back here, but certainly had a look that sports entertainment appreciates. To get to the top, he'd have to lose to everyone for a few years, and that included going through 1997 as exactly that dude. He even filled in last minute for some schmo who was meant to be beaten black and blue by Bob Holly at a house show. That guy had to pull out, probably because he was terrified, and Sexton Hardcastle was brought in instead. Even put up a decent fight before Sparky Plugg sneaked out the win. Knowing he needed experience, Copeland didn't just leave it here either. He had a couple of appearances on WCW TV against Meng and the Taskmaster, but it was WWE who vied for his signature, and they got it. That developmental contract came in 1997, and the rest is history. Number 1, the Hardy Boys. We already mentioned them, and here they are again. It's no secret that Matt and Jeff were over WWE TV before their official arrival in 1998. YouTube can't help but throw clips your way, and even as far back as 1994, they were losing to Waylon Mercy, Leif Cassidy, and Rad Radford. These were the heroes of their time. When we're talking about 1996, well, that's when the now famous tag team made their debut as a pairing. Even better, their first match as the Hardy Boys was against the Smoking Guns for the tag team titles on Superstars. I mean, the match wasn't much as the brothers bumped around for Billy and Bart, but it was the start. They also took on the New Rockers and the Grimm Twins, although in the latter, they used their Jinx Brothers persona instead. I don't know what this was or why they did it, but they were called Ingus and Waldo, and you wonder why Broken Matt Hardy became a thing almost 20 years later. Know of any other wrestlers nobody realized wrestled for WWE in 1996? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles. Follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE, and watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture. I love you all. I'll talk to you again soon.